Hey Gemini, welcome to Sweet Tea Astrology and Tarot. My name is Erica. Welcome to the channel. I'm so glad that you found me. This is your April 2017 Astrology, Tarot, and Oracle card video forecast. I intend on pulling 4 tarot cards for you and an oracle card from each one of the card deck boxes I have displayed here in front of you. One from the Sage Goddess Gemstone Oracle deck, one from the Sacred Rebels Oracle deck by Elena Fairchild, and another card by Elena Fairchild from the Crystal Mandala Oracle deck. So, Gemini, if I were you, I would grab a calendar and a pen and sit down and get ready to take some notes because there's going to be a lot of stuff going on in April. So, why don't you sit a spell, Gemini, so we can talk about your stars. There is a crucial time period that will be occurring for us during April. I think that it will be a very key time in communication, especially in the avenues or the areas of love and money, because Venus and Mercury will be retrograde at the same time during this time frame. Venus will be retrograde newly in Pisces, and Mercury will be retrograde in Taurus. So the waters or the lines of communication may be a little muddied. Whatever's going on, being discussed or being reflected on, may not necessarily be certainly 100% clear, but discussion helps to bring clarity. So I would advise that. Also, down in the description below, I also put the piece of advice that I would tie to this time period of your April 2017 would be to tiptoe lightly or tiptoe gently in the lives of others. Okay, so let's talk about the month of April, Gemini. April 2nd or 3rd, depending on where you live on the planet, Venus, the planet of love, beauty, harmony, money, and resources, will be retrograding and tiptoeing back into the sign of Pisces. This is your 10th house. The 10th house is ruled by the sign of Capricorn, and it is the house of your career, your status, and your reputation. It's also the house of destiny and your dealings with authority figures. This could be authority figures in your life, in your world, or in their field of expertise, like a professional. I also like to think of the 10th house through the lens of a William Shakespeare quote. He said, "All the world is a stage," and I like to think of the 10th house as the stage that you approach the world on, and it's how the world knows you. Now, on the 6th or the 7th of April, depending on where you live on the planet, we will have Saturn going retrograde in Sagittarius. Saturn has been in Sagittarius since the very end of 2014. There was a small break during the summer of 2015 when Saturn moved retrograde back into the sign of Scorpio. But that's neither here nor there because we're talking about this retrograde motion for Saturn, which is in Sagittarius in your 7th house. Could be that you are dealing with or feeling limited or limitations, probably restricted or contained in certain areas dealing with or surrounding the themes of life that speak to your partnerships or your relationships and how you identify who you are as a human being through those relationships. It could also be feeling very constrained or limited in the means of counseling, and also you may be feeling overrun by some people who you would consider to be an open enemy as well, Gemini. That would be someone who you would openly testify against in an open court of law. It's someone who you have an open beef with. I also see it as someone who you would argue with online in an open forum where other people could consume and digest that information, that discussion in real time like you would. So like Facebook or Twitter or something like that. On the 9th or 10th of the month, depending on where you live on the planet, we've got Mercury, the planet of thought, movement, and communication, going retrograde in Taurus. This is your 12th house. I would definitely recommend keeping a dream journal, because during these Mercury retrogrades, especially in the 12th house, because the 12th house is the hardest house on the astrological wheel to see, first of all. But secondly, it's It's the house of dreams. It's the house of secrets. It's the house of repression. It's the house of your own self-limitations as well. It could be that you need to keep a dream diary, or just keep a diary during this time regardless, to help you figure out what you are thinking about and the lens that you're seeing your world through right now, because we all change, we all evolve, and we all grow. So the way that we think at 12 is not the way that we're going to think at 22, 33, or 45. So it's okay to grow. And looking back on that written communication that you even keep with yourself, like in the format of a journal or a diary, can be very, it can be very healing, it can be very insightful, and it can actually help you to decide what it is that you truly do value. And it can also hold other people in your world accountable for the stuff and shit that they may say or do. That 12th house is, it's also the house of secrets. So there may be some secret communication that is either being brought up, dealt with, or maybe coming into the light. And the reason that I say that is because right after Mercury goes retrograde, we have on the very next day, either the 10th or the 11th, depending on where you live on the planet, we have a 21 degree full moon in Libra. And this is in your 5th house of sparks. It's also where you have your fingerprints and DNA, because it's where you have the most skin in the game. What I mean by the house of sparks is like the spark of love, the spark of life, the spark of creation, because the 5th house is the house that's ruled by Leo. Leo rules the heart, so it's the things that you really love and that you really care about. And it's also, it can be very self-centered as well. That's not derogatory or bad. We have to be self-centered to take care of ourselves sometimes, right? But that 5th house is the house of your social life and your pleasure seeking. It's where you go to blow off steam. It's where you fall in love. It's where you make your babies. It's where the artist is inspired and creates their masterpiece. And it could be that through this journaling process, you find that you have a real talent for writing, and that inspires you to pick up the pen or start tapping away at your keyboard, a la Doogie Howser style. And if you are too young to understand that reference, one, it hurts my heart, but two, he was a teenage doctor on like an NBC sitcom in the early 90s or something. May have been considered a little bit of a drama too, because 14-year-old doctor, it's a little terrifying. But yeah, look up Doogie Howser. That was the show that made Neil Patrick Harris very popular in popular culture when I was growing up. But anyways, I digress. In that 5th house, the full moon will be helping you to see the light in certain situations in the 5th house. And it could be a time where relationships are tested. Remember that during this full moon, we will also be experiencing Venus retrograde and Mercury retrograde. So there will be miscommunication involving all sorts of different things. The full moons make us a little bit more emotional anyway. With the full moon being in Libra, Jupiter is also in Libra, so it could really, really, really make this very, very emotional. And it's like emotions could rise very quickly as well. On the 15th or the 16th of the month, depending on where you live on the planet, we will have Venus, the planet of love, beauty, harmony, money, and resources, making her direct motion. Now, she'll have to clear her post-retrograde shadow, but we are close to tying up the loose ends of this Venus retrograde cycle. And these cycles come to give us an opportunity to reflect on the things that we value and the things that we love. And I've been telling you throughout the last couple of readings that I've done to ask yourself, do I love them, this, or it? And then respond accordingly. Well, it's almost go time for that responding accordingly now. Just understand that with Mercury being retrograde, the way that you respond may not be understood well by the individual or individuals that you need to give this message to. So there may be more discussions about it. But Mercury retrograde is great for renegotiations. But this Venus going direct is in the 10th house of your career, status, reputation, your dealings with authority figures, and things may be coming, there may be more of an ease in the flow of that 10th house. And your 10th house isn't just the career, it's also how the world knows you. So it's through your partnership with your spouse. And, okay, Once upon a time I was married. This is the example I can give. I was no longer Erica. I was Brad's wife, mother of Caleb and Joshua, PTA mom, football volunteer mom. You know what I mean? I lost my identity and gained a lot more by that relationship, that status that I had in my family. So, and that's not a critique or anything on it. It was just an example as to how you are more than just your name. You are more than just who you are to people around you, your reputation, that sort of thing. But things may be flowing easier for you in that 10th house. On the 19th or 20th of the month, depending on where you live on the planet, we've got the sun moving into Taurus, and this is your 12th house, bringing a lot of light into that 12th house. Probably going to be dealing with some insomnia. Whenever I see the sun either transiting through the 12th house, or if I'm looking at a natal chart and I see the sun in the 12th house, I think this individual has a really hard time falling asleep, or this is a type of person who deals with insomnia. This is the type of person who only needs a few hours of sleep. And it may not be that that's how they want it, it's just that's how their body is and that's how they function. That sun going into the 12th house could also be illuminating, like I said, some of that secret communication that may be coming out or maybe being dealt with. If it's not been secrets, then it could be things that you've repressed or have been repressed may be coming forth as well. It could just be a lot of illumination in that 12th house for you. Understand that what you're seeing, though, you may not be able to communicate properly or adequately just yet because of Mercury retrograding in that 12th house. Now, on the 21st or 22nd of the month, we have Mars, the planet that represents energy, impulse, and aggression, moving into Gemini, and this is your first house. So, this is the beginning of the heralding of Gemini season, whenever you've got your personal planets starting to make their way into your sign. Venus is going to take a little bit longer to make it to you because of the retrograde motion she's been going through, but she'll make it, I promise. But with Mars going through your first house would be a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful time for you to start exercising. Work some of that Martian energy and aggression out of your body by getting out in the yard and working in the yard, doing some spring cleaning, or just working out because you want to look good on the beach or you want to look good naked. But do it for you. Don't do it for nobody else, Gemini, all right? You bring sexy back for you. But if you aren't using this very aggressive, very energetic type of energy, then you will be used by it. So you will be more aggressive if you aren't exerting energy in one way or another. And get your heart pumping when you're exerting that energy. Move the blood through you because Mars is a part of the blood. On the 25th or 26th of the month, we have a new moon in Taurus, and this is the 12th house again. Now, that 12th house, the hardest house, it's like the house that lacks the most light normally. With the sun being in the 12th house, there's going to be obviously more light. But normally, it's the hardest house on the wheel to see. A new moon is always considered to be like a seed that you can plant and will gestate for about 6 months and be close to fruition or fully ready for a harvest around the Taurus full moon, about 6 months from now. So if you are looking to do any sort of dream work, dream interpretation, working on behind the scenes communication, not necessarily stay in your integrity, Gemini, but use this time where you're going to be up late at night, where you're unable to sleep, to work on that masterpiece that you are considering working on, or to devoting to learning new things as well. That's what I see going on for you in the April 2017 sky, Gemini. What I'm going to do now is transition over to my tarot cards. I'm going to shuffle the deck for you and remind you once again that the week, or it's a little bit more than a week, the period of time between April 9th and April 15th will be a pretty delicate time when it comes to communicating, especially about money and love. You may be having some pretty insightful thoughts about money and love that you want to communicate, but you don't know exactly what you want to say. You may need to marinate on it a little bit. There's a lot of retrograde motion that will be going on in the sky, giving us time to reflect and reassess and look at. Anytime there's a planet that's retrograde, it gives us an opportunity for taking, like I said, another look at it, for giving it another, one, it gives us time to look at it, but two, it also gives us time to reflect on it. When the planets are retrograde, they're moving a little bit slower, and they look, from our perspective here on Earth, like they're going backwards in the sky. It's an optical illusion. And I explained that motion, what it looks like, in the Venus retrograde playlist that I will have linked above in the information bubble in the upper right hand corner of your screen or device. I want to remind you this is a general reading, so it's not going to apply for every Gemini on the planet. We have a little bit of each of the zodiac in us, and I've explained that at length in several different videos as well. But this is just a general reading, so hopefully the majority of the messages work for you. I've already cut the deck, and what I'm going to do now is pull the cards. The bottom card will always represent the underlying theme or overarching energy of my spreads. The top three can be for clarity, and I will also assign time frames for them when I come back after I've done the tarot math. Okay, now I'm going to shuffle for you the Sage Goddess Gemstone Oracle card deck. I had several of you reach out to me either in private messages, private emails, or the like. Okay, you had a card fall. Asking me to bring back this deck, and there is information that we get from the Sage Goddess Gemstone Oracle deck that the Crystal Mandala Oracle card deck does not provide. So I may not use it in every series that I do, because I usually do 2 series of videos a month, but I will try to use it in at least one. Cut the deck for y'all. There is your Sacred Rebels Oracle card. That deck is by Elena Fairchild, and the artwork is by Autumn Sky Morrison. And finally, I'm going to shuffle and then pull for you a card from the Crystal Mandala Oracle deck. This deck is by Elena Fairchild, and the artwork is by Jane Morin. Alright, gonna cut. And there's your Crystal Mandala Oracle card. Alright, Gemini, what I'm gonna do now is hit the pause button, flip these cards over, do the tarot math, and I'll be right back with your story. Hang tight, y'all. Hey Gemini, I'm back with your cards, so let's get started. The underlying theme or overarching energy for this spread is the 7 of Pentacles upright. The 7 represents the 7th house on the astrological wheel for me, and that is the house of Libra. That is the sign that the full moon will be occurring in this month, and that is occurring in your 5th house. When I look at this card, I think of an individual who is reflecting back or looking down on assessing the amount of work, time, and energy that has gone into growing this bush, this pentacle, this yield, and waiting. Just biding time and waiting. I also want to warn the fact that these pentacles that are on the vine have not been harvested yet. So just because they look like they're healthy, there may be a fungus behind them. There may be a storm that comes through, knocks them off before they're ready. Those types of things I think about when I see this card as well, because there's really no action. It's really a hurry up and wait kind of feeling when I see this card. The pentacles represent earth sign energy, and the earth signs are Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. So you may be dealing with some 7th or 5th house energy with a Taurus, Virgo, or Capricorn, possibly reflecting on your relationship with them. And this can be a business relationship or like where you share a bank account with them as well. another thing that I want to indicate for you is that the 7th house is also where you are experiencing Saturn transiting. And Saturn is the planet that represents limitation, structure, and containment. You could be dealing with those themes in the 7th house as well, dealing with your partnerships, your relationships, and how you identify who you are as an individual through those interactions. Could be that you are feeling restrained or limited in some way or another by someone who you would consider an open enemy. They may be like your boss, or possibly your spouse who's domineering over you and you're kind of over it.com, if we're being real. Like I said, this is just the underlying theme or overarching energy of the spread, but it's looking back, reflecting on, and it makes complete sense. Capricorn is the ruler of the 10th house, where Venus is going to be tiptoeing into this is the Pisces area of your chart, so it could be that you are reevaluating how much money you are making possibly in your career or how much you're worth. You may want to ask for a raise once these retrograde season, the personal planet retrogrades are over. That would be Mercury and Venus. Okay, didn't mean to throw the card, but all right. So that's the underlying theme or overarching energy for you, Gemini. Reflecting, looking at money, resources, the things that you would expend on another living person or thing, situation, cause close to your heart as well. Now, the first card in the top 3 for clarity is a Major Arcana card. It is in the reverse. It is the World card. This is the 21st card of the Major Arcana, Gemini. 2 + 1 is 3, and that is your house on the astrological wheel. It's the house of communication, short distance trips, siblings, cousins, neighbors, and people in your neighborhood. Communication deals with your communication devices, how you speak, how people interpret you, how you interpret others, how you digest and consume information. It is also your phone, your internet connection, the things that you use for Wi-Fi, that sort of stuff. What's interesting is whenever I see the World card, no matter if it's upright, reverse, or whatever, I think of the World Wide Web. I was born in 1980, so I remember a day and time when there was no internet, and when it first started, they called it the World Wide Web, and what was funny was they would even, no matter what the website was, they would always preface with www. blah, blah, blah. So I think of the World Wide Web. Another reason why I think of it is because of the interconnectivity of the card, and we are getting ideas from 4 different corners of the globe. Now, this card is representative of the planet Saturn, and Saturn speaks to structure. It could be that the reason that this card is in reverse is because of the upcoming Saturn retrograde. I normally see this card in my 3-card spread as the past, but Saturn has been retrograde before in Sagittarius, so it could just be highlighting themes of an earlier retrograde in the Sagittarius sign. If I could speak this morning. Saturn has, like I said before, it's been in the 7th house. That is the house of your partnerships and your relationships, and also your open enemies and counseling. For some of you, it may be that you've been doing counseling and it's turned your world upside down. That can be a good thing or a bad thing. Or you are looking back at the past and you're seeing a need for counseling, or understanding that counseling would probably have done you a world of good. For some of you, that may be the case. I also want to highlight the fact that Saturn was squared by Neptune all of 2016. That is, why was 2016 such a shitty year for so many people? That is a chief underlier of it, is Saturn square Neptune. Neptune was in your 11th house. The 11th house is ruled by Aquarius, and that's the very next. Aquarius is what's represented by the star card. So that's another reason why I'm bringing up the Saturn square Neptune thing. Okay, so Neptune is in the 11th house. That is the house of Aquarius. That is the house of your friends, your groups, your friends, your groups, teams, memberships, associations that you belong to. But it's also the house of the internet, y'all. So it may be that you're looking at issues of boundaries or containment between internet communication in work or in just with your partnerships and in your relationship. It doesn't necessarily have to be work. It could be any of that. Your partner may be looking at your internet communications. You may be looking at your partner's communications, or it may have been something to where there was an issue dealing with a teammate or a member, somebody that you were associated with in one way or another. But Saturn was squared by Neptune all of 2016. That was that's why we had a lot of the flooding. Water had a hard time staying within its boundaries. There was a lot of emotional things. It was very much about the refugee crisis. Saturn squaring Neptune was a part of why the oil field went in such a quick decline. So yeah, because Neptune is nebulousness, illusion, imagination. It's addiction, but it's also the gases, oil and gas industry, which is interesting. Now, the World card in the upright, it represents liberation and peace. But in the reverse, I see it as being detained or restrained, contained, and chaos or discontent or unhappiness. I also see this, like I said, possibly speaking about the retrograde. If that's not the case, then it's dealing with those internet issues or whatever. I'm trying to give you as much as what I see about each of the cards to give as much of the story as I can to as many of you that watch. Because I'm close to 5,000 subscribers now, which blows my freaking mind because this channel will be a year old on like May 6th or something. So the second card that I pulled for you is the Star card upright. And the Star card, representative of Aquarius. Aquarius rules the 11th house. And you have the ruler of Aquarius in the 11th house, which is the planet Uranus. The 11th house, once again, that house of your friendships, groups, memberships, teams, and associations that you're a part of. It's also your future wishes, goals, and dreams or your bucket list. And it is the house of the internet. One other interesting piece of information to note is that Venus started her retrograde motion in the 11th house as well. So this is dealing with the present energy at hand. It may be involving a love or money situation in that 11th house. The Star card upright also represents inspiration and happiness. This is the 17th card of the major arcana. 1 plus 7 is 8, and that speaks to the Scorpio-ruled house of life, death, and rebirth, sexuality, other people's money, transformation, regeneration, metamorphosis, and instincts, be them primal, basic, or human. So it could be that you are really focused on a Scorpio or an Aquarius, depending. You've got some strong Saturnian energy playing out as well in two different... this card represents Saturn. Saturn's in the 7th house. And so it may be a situation with boundaries or feeling contained or limited in your associations with this individual. Under, like, what I'm seeing is Scorpio and Aquarius just by looking at the cards. And the majority of your communication may be done through the internet or through Wi-Fi means. Just another thing. And a lot of that communication may be being reflected on either through you or through them in the lens of the past. Now, the final card that I pulled for you in the tarot card spread is the 3 of Swords in reverse. Now, the 3 speaks to that 3rd house, Gemini, and you rule the 3rd house. Once again, that's the house of your communication, short-distance trips, siblings, cousins, and neighbors. This is what I would consider to be the future. If you were going to give it a time frame, I would say no more than the end of the month, though. It could be that you're dealing with heartache, or it could be that this Venus retrograde is highlighting things that you aren't happy about in love, or the things, maybe you're reassessing or reevaluating your values in a way. I do see the swords as air sign energy. The air signs are Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. So this very much indicates that you are having a hard time between, a difficult time. It's probably like tug of war between your heart and your mind. I like this card in the reverse, though, because the weight of the swords, gravity will pull the swords away. So it could be that there's some healing that has come to you through this Venus retrograde or the Mercury retrograde. Could be that there's healing coming to you through these retrogrades, somebody coming back or re-emerging into your life, or again, reappearing into your life again. There is silver lining in the situation, and you do have the tools in your hand to find that out. However, you're going to have to do the work for it. And I didn't fully explain the star card. My bad, y'all. The star card, I also see this as trying to find balance, and this could be speaking to, because we've got the 2 cups right here. The Aquarius is known as the water bearer. It's an air sign, but they're the most, if I were to say, and this is not a dig at any of the other air signs, I love everybody in the zodiac, honestly, because each of you is vitally important to how this world works and how we get along. But when I think of air signs, normally I think that they are very much in their head and not so much in their emotions. And if I were to say, if of the 3, Aquarius would be the more likely to be in their emotions. Unless, Gemini, you've got some strong water sign energy playing out in your chart somewhere. But I see the star card as possibly trying to find balance between this Saturnian structure or internet communication and the fact that you may be hurt, your heart may be hurting, or you may be searching for the truth in some way in your mind or in love. It may be that for a few of you, Gemini, you know that there's a heartbreaking situation that's coming your way, and there's nothing that can be done about it. And it could be that you're aching over this situation, reflecting on the situation, and doing your best to be the support system that you can be. And if that's the case, I applaud you. I need to go ahead and move on to the tarot math. I did the spread, and it ended up being 48. 4 plus 8 is 12. And that speaks to that 12th house where Mercury is going to be retrograding. A lot of energy will be focused on that 12th house by the end of April. That 12th house is the house that is traditionally ruled by Pisces on the astrological wheel, and that is the house of secrets, secret enemies, karma, repression, limitations, self-undoing. It's the dreams in the dream space. It's also your subconscious. I like to think of the 12th house, like I said before earlier in the reading, as the darkest house on the astrological wheel. And I also like to think of it as the deepest, darkest, innermost recesses of the mind. Once upon a time, I would say, especially to my ex-husband, that when I was a child, my way of dealing with things, and this gives you an idea as to just how sick in the head that I was at one point, I would say that when I was a child, I would take all of the bad things that happened to me, and it was some pretty traumatic stuff that I haven't spoken about at length in this video, or in this channel, let me put it like that, that I would take the bad stuff and I would put it in a box and I would shove it to the furthest part of my mind. And that's repression, pretty much. That's exactly where the 12th house is. So it's those dark things that you want to keep hidden, or that is kept hidden from you for whatever reason. It's your secrets, but it's secrets that you keep and secrets that are kept from you. So it could be that this Mercury retrograde could be very impactful for you. I would definitely suggest keeping a journal, and you might want to put a lock on it, because there may be stuff coming out that you haven't ever expressed before. And that can be powerful, and that can be powerfully scary. So, I pulled for you the Sage Goddess Gemstone Oracle card. I actually I didn't pull it. It fell out of the deck for you, and it really reflects, especially the last card in the tarot. It deals with grounding, protection, and emotional healing. It can help heal and amplify the vibrations of the heart and the root chakra. This is the Apache Tear Obsidian Gemstone card. It reads, Apache Tear Obsidian grounds, protects, and heals. It also cleanses your emotional wounds. This card fell for you because you are grieving and need support to release your emotions. Meditate with Apache Tear Obsidian to find new hope, embrace joy, and release your pain to the infinite love of Divine Source. Like I said, a card of grief between the heart and the mind. And it may be like a love triangle where either your partner or you are not necessarily happy, or you're finding that you're either, I won't say that you're not happy, it could be a litany of things, because in humanity, no matter how much you love the person that you're with, attractions to other people happen. And it's what you do with that attraction as to whether it's good or bad. Being attracted to other people is not bad. Acting on that attraction while you're in another relationship or committed to someone else, that's when it gets bad. But there are issues where, as long as there's open communication, some relationships allow that and some don't. You know what relationship you're in. You know your partner. You know if they would be cool with it or not. This could be a situation of attraction and being torn about the attraction. This could be a situation where you're in a relationship and you no longer want to be in a relationship because the attraction to another individual is so strong. Lots of different ways that it could play out. I'm not going to say it's cheating. I'm not going to say it's anything like that, because the story can play out so differently for so many different individuals. And with everything that's going on retrograde-wise, it could just be that you're realizing it and not acting on it. Some of you may be, but some of you may not be. So stay in your integrity. Now, from the Sacred Rebels Oracle card deck, I pulled the 25th card. It reads, Release the dark wound, let love live. And I hope that when I do the auto fix for this video, that it will show that the skeletal structure, you can see it almost like it's a color x-ray, and you can see the skeletal system of this fish as well. It's like being transparent, or being transparent, being I want to say authentic again. We had a solar eclipse in Pisces. I will have your February playlists linked up above as well in that information bubble, so that you can go back and see what was occurring in the eclipses and what house that played out in, because we had a lunar eclipse in Leo and a solar eclipse in Pisces that happened within about 2 or 3 weeks in February. That's endings and new beginnings. I explained some of that in those videos. If you want to know about it, it'll be linked above. But 2 + 5 is 7, once again speaking to Saturn in that 7th house. So Saturn being in that 7th house has shown up representatively in a few different areas for you in the tarot spread. Remember that Saturn was squared by Neptune in your 11th house. So Saturn squaring Neptune, I told you that it dealt with water and having a hard time staying in boundaries. This fish couldn't survive out of the water. This individual, whoever it was, had to let it go. Could have loved this fish for everything it had, for everything it was. But the fish couldn't survive out of water. Had to let it go. This card indicates that you need to let go of the death grip of perfection in your life, in your world around you. Stop being such a control freak. I love you, but stop it. Let yourself and your ideas live. And what I mean by that is there really is a wound in our human subconscious that, well, it deprives us of the process, and it expects and demands perfection from us. It's like you can't work your way to perfection. You have to be perfect immediately, and that's just not how it works. I mean, even a fine wine has to have time, right? Whatever this situation is, it must be allowed to be what it is. And only time, love, patience, and attention will reveal it. And it will be revealed in its divine timing. So apply no criticism, no judgment, and no preconceived evaluations. And like I said, we had a solar eclipse in Pisces, meaning new beginnings. And it was tightly conjoined with Neptune. So there could be new beginnings going on in that 11th house that is bringing about all of this reflection and change and possible reflections of the heart. And, oh, Lord have mercy, I just heard in my head, it's an old song, y'all. Roxette, Listen to Your Heart. I do not know why I heard that in my head, but when I get prompts like that, I try to share them. So YouTube it when you get finished watching this. Listen to Your Heart. It was on the Pretty Woman soundtrack. Let me throw it all the way back to 1991. How you like me now? Okay, the second card that I pulled for you is the number 15 card. This is from the Crystal Mandala Oracle deck. It is by Elena Fairchild, and the artwork is by Jane Marin. The 15th card is the Archangel Raphael in Malachite card. It reads Grace for the Grand Gesture, and it is the Crystal Angels 444 vibratory message card. The Crystal Angel 444 message is essentially that the angels have your back. The 444 numerological, I always mess that word up. The numbers mean or equate to, deal with the vibrational energy of stability, grounding into earthly reality, and building a strong foundation for your spiritual growth. The mantra to embody with this card is to have faith and let it manifest. This card indicates that there are times when even the smallest gesture can change another's world, and in that, it can change your world too. But the grand gesture is a big step, and the universe responds to such grand declarations of faith. The grand gesture cannot be forced or falsified. You must embody the energetic vibration of, this is my next move, do your best. Understand that expressing your desire for change allows the opportunities to find you. Those opportunities will come to you when you've expressed that you are ready for change and that you are capable of adapting to that change. And it will come in the divine timing that is best for your highest good and greatest growth. So 1 + 5 is 6, and that speaks to the 6th house, which is the house that's ruled by Virgo, and it is the area of life that deals with your work and health, or the competency and skills that you bring to the services that you provide. We had a full moon in Virgo in March, I believe. It was March? Yeah, because Virgo's right before Libra. So, go back and also watch your March video. I'll try to remember to have that one linked up above as well. Because this is all playing out. All of these full moons, all of these eclipses, all of these planetary shifts are giving you energetic surges to make you see the world and your life and people around you and the situations that are going on in your world through a different lens. Sometimes many different times a day, different perspectives. So, Gemini, I hope you enjoyed this reading. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you already have, I thank you from the bottom of my very grateful heart. I have 7 more videos to do, so I'm going to have to stop my yapping and get busy on them. So, I send you lots of love. I do hope that you're well. Please take care of yourself. Please be kind to yourself and save some of that kindness for others, because we're all going through private battles in our world that some of us may never speak about to another living soul. I'll be around for the full moon to pull some more cards for you and talk about what may be going on for you then. But until then, take care. Namaste. I love y'all. And bye.